I'm Teneale.
And I'm Kelsey, and we're financial advisors from 𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴n Partners �TrueWealth, bringing you thought-provoking conversations around you, your money and your life on the Wealth Experience podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Experience, where we talk all things financial, health and true wealth, whatever that means for you. Today, we're talking philanthropy. Interesting fact for our listeners, philanthropy, oh my goodness, what a hard word to say.
It certainly is, Teneale. You get better at it as the time goes by.
This is hard. Philanthropy is derived from the Greek word love mankind and is really a subject that not many of us broach until our later years. But there's substantial body of evidence now that it can increase the overall well-being and happiness for individuals, and it doesn't always have to be about money. So today we're going to unpack some conversations with a special guest, Frances Easton, former partner and financial advisor from 𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴n Partners and current chair of the Mackay Community Foundation. With over 30 years of experience in the area of creating and living true wealth, we felt there was no better person to come and speak with us today about the benefits of giving back to your community.
Hear, hear. So Frances, thank you for joining us today, and we thought that we'd start by just asking you a simple question just to get to know you a little bit more. So tell us a little bit about, what makes you tick, what do you love doing, who is Frances Easton?
Yeah, well, you guys would probably know me quite well, so I'll certainly share a few things that you'll know, but the listeners may not know. Firstly, it's not over 30 years. I'm sorry, Teneale, but maybe 25, okay? So
Get it right.
I'd be in my teens if that was the case. But so we'll just do that little correction firstly.
You can't add years on a lady.
No, don't add any more years into the equation. And I think one thing I really hate talking about myself, so well, not hate, I dislike, but probably just to give a bit of background, I'm a mum with two daughters, and aged 14 and 10. We certainly, I would consider us a busy household, with my husband who has a business, cell engineering, and with two daughters, a little bit quieter than usual. We've got our eldest daughter now at boarding school this year, so we as a family are certainly trying to navigate that little bit of a hole in the household at the moment. So that's been a little different and a lot quieter for everyone. But yeah, for us, I think the busyness has always been something, no matter if we're doing paid work or not, that's just instilled in my husband Troy and myself. And I am seeing that in my youngest one, who's got the most energy I've ever seen a person can have. She's a real sports person and loves her sport.
What's her favourite sport at this point in time?
Look, she's right into two sports at the moment, Teneale. She's we've just been to Perth to take her to the national titles for ninja. So if anyone doesn't know about ninja, go to the Ninja Hub, local Ninja Hub. It's amazing.
That's interesting.
So you're flying through the air and, running up walls and all sorts of things, something that I would never be able to do. And basketball, loves a basketball. So she's playing with her little team from school. So that's something that she enjoys.
That's really cool. So we might see her in future on that Ninja Warrior or whatever it's called, that show. Where
I won't be surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring. I went over and had a watch of the adults and every age group, and pretty inspiring to see people my age doing that type of physical, exercise. I'd like to think that I could lift my body weight, but I don't think that'll ever happen in a lifetime. So, but yeah, look, I enjoy a bit of exercise, do a little bit of F45. There you go, Lee, a little bit of a plug for you. And yeah, probably don't do it as much as I should, but yeah, I do a little bit of that and a little bit of running here and there. So I do enjoy my running for some thinking time. But yeah, I've embarked on in the last 12 months. Embarked on something a little bit different in life, and as you'll be aware, ladies, I've sold out of the business at 𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴n Partners after 20 odd years, 24 years I think in the business. And Troy and I in our late 20s have always been business owners, and that's a busy household.
It's a big change.
It's a significant change, but one that we've really enjoyed as a family. Myself, I've enjoyed, and I think the one thing that I continue to get is, well, what are you doing with your time now?
It's funny how quickly that fills too, though, isn't it?
I was going to say, my first answer generally is, look, I I don't know how I fit it in work. and this is something that a lot of our retiree clients, you ladies would know, that Kelsey and Teneale, that a lot of our retirement clients said exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I don't declare that I'm retired. I'm happily, my answer is for people happily doing a bit of voluntary work at the moment. And, I'm doing the school pickups, which my mum and dad did frequently for me. I've realised that there is school traffic. And certainly I do owe my mum and dad a lot of time and petrol money. So shout out to them. But yeah, look, I think purchasing Alman Partners was one of the, well, I'd say probably the second great decision I made in life. It gave me a lot of opportunities. It's been such a pleasure to pass that on to Kelsey, 𝐼𝐸𝐷𝐸, Teneale, the next generation, to come into a business, because I got that opportunity through the founder, Scott Alman. And it's such a pleasure and privilege for us to do the work we do as financial advisors. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next generation does for Alman Partners and their clients. And that's been amazing to be able to do that process.
Absolutely, and it's been really great to watch you live your true wealth. And having advised clients for many years, you've helped hundreds in our community and all around there in Australia, and now you're out living your version of true wealth. So I thought maybe could you talk to a little about what true wealth actually means to you? For our listeners, we talk about different things like the Maslow hierarchy of needs and how can you accelerate yourself up those tiers. For those anybody that doesn't know, it's about going through those basic needs in life, setting yourself up, and then being able to get to a position of self-actualization is the ideal dream for many people out there. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your true wealth? Yeah,
I think certainly, as we're aware, true wealth's different for everyone. So I suppose sharing my true wealth is, I suppose I've had a lot of reflection. I've had a lot of time to think about it over the last 12 months. But really being present is one of those things that I think for many of us we scramble to have in life, whether you're 20, 30, 40 or beyond. So I think being present, true to yourself and what you want to do, and really asking yourself what's the most important thing to you, and the people you want to surround yourself with. So I think that's something that I've always seen as my true wealth. Community is big and for me, and as I'm hoping I live a quite good and long life, and what I mean good is a healthy life. And certainly when you look at all the research, the centennials, they've done a lot of research on it's all about community. That's what gives you wellness. There's no I in wellness, it's we. And I think that's something that I that's my true wealth, just be able to create communities, not just one but many, that I can be surrounded by. And that's what makes me get up in the morning, be excited, not sitting at home all the time, and being involved with a level of communities out there.
I think it's really special that you've been able to identify that in you, because making such a big decision to sell out of the business and, draw a line in the sand, especially when you've worked so hard to be a big part of building that too, to actually do it when, you've got such a long life ahead of you still, you must have been so very clear on what makes you happy, where your values lie, and that part. Did you find that that's something that kind of came to you over time as you got closer to, or is it a kind of something because of the job that you did? It was more front of mind?
I think we're very lucky to be financial advisors. We get to see and listen to a lot of things people do in life, whether bad, good or indifferent. There's no judgment there, and as you listen to people and guide them along their way to creating wealth and doing what they want to do, what's most important to them, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
And with 25 years, approximately being a financial advisor, I think that's kept me in good stead to go, okay, continually ask yourself, because you're asking people every day what's important to them.
Yep.
It's at your forefront all the time. So, and I think, look, human nature is that we always want to achieve, and it's probably getting a bit of sitting back and going, well, it's now a time of not a level of achieving, but maybe a bit more fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that comes with a bit of age. I probably would never have thought about that in my 20s. I guarantee that. I was there to achieve and, show people what I could do. And I think, I don't know if you've read any books on Chip Conley. He's an author, and he did strategic planning with Airbnb, and he sort of says, a lot of people in their midlife are not generally human doing now, they're human being.
Mm.
And I think I can reflect on that and saying, where I was in my 20s and 30s was all about, do, and run that race. So it's nice to be able to sit back now and go, okay, what is really important to me, and, how do I live that in a way that, builds that community and something that I'm happy to get up in the morning every morning.
Yeah. That's special. Thank you for sharing.
No, you're welcome.
And so if we talk a little bit now about, so we've spoken about the Mackay Community Foundation, and you're a big part now of the success of the Mackay Community Foundation. So for our listeners that are thinking about charitable giving, what do you see as some of the real benefits for philanthropists to get involved with their community in such a way?
Yeah. I think first, if I could just mention, I think philanthropist is a word that a lot of people put wealth to. I probably want to squash that myth or misinterpretation. A philanthropist is someone who, can give their time, their skills, their energy, their talent, all money.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be wealthy to be a philanthropist. And pretty much if you think about your everyday life, we're all doing it in one shape or form. It might be as simple as sitting down with your child every night and reading a book and getting them to read to you so they can become independent one day and be able to get work and not have to rely on other people. So it's just making a better community by putting those things in force. So that's how I see that when it comes to philanthropy. But, what does that better? I think if we can give in whatever shape it is, we get a better community around us.
Absolutely.
So we get a reward from that, so that's the first and foremost, as I see. But not only that, if we consider giving while we're alive, a lot of people will give in their wills, which is very admirable. But if you can afford to give through your wealth or give time while you're alive, certainly can't give it when you pass. But, if you can give that while you're alive, you will see the benefit and the impact that you make in your community. And, if I give you a bit of an example with the Mackay Community Foundation, we had our largest donation, which was a commercial building, come to us 2 years ago.
Wow, that's what a great gift.
Yeah, from one gentleman, David Denny. I will throw his name there. I'm not talking out of school. And David, really what the story for him was that he was looking at his will and his inheritance and thought about his pre-inheritance planning and really said, okay, do I need these assets? And having a look, what can I make an impact for our community? And he approached us. We took that on board. And the real impact and the joy that he's been able to have is our grant giving went from $70,000 to $170,000 the next year.
Wow.
And that's because that rent from that building is now going back to the community. So imagine having that joy, and I've certainly been able to talk to David after that gift. Whilst he's pretty humble and doesn't want that announced, from a point of view of continually reminding people, I think it's a huge thing for him individually. He gets satisfaction out of that, but also the community is significantly able to provide to the community on that basis.
Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, on a broader level across Australia, got some stats here, of course, being financial advisors. So we're about to go through one of the largest intergenerational wealth transfers. In the next 2 decades, there's about $2.6 trillion expected to change hands. Now, if that next generation donated just 10-20% of that onto their community, that would be either $260 to $520 billion going back into communities. But you think about that in terms of how much change you would have Australia-wide.
What a huge impact that could make today.
Yep, absolutely. So I think that's the power. And, you look at it in a small community, if everybody does that little bit, it all adds up to those real big changes.
Yeah, that's right. I think when we think about generations and that, I do think the younger generation are better at doing these things than we were, or when I was in my 20s too. there's some pretty impactful young people out there making a real difference in communities. You look at Orange Sky, two young fellas who started that very young. There's many charities out there which were started by people in their 20s. So I think that next generation coming through are really starting to think about how can I live a purpose in life and what does that look like. So that's really encouraging to see, and certainly something that we could all learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's talking about the charities then. The Mackay Community Foundation, it has a bit of a unique aspect in it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how it came to be and a bit about the charity itself?
Yeah, well, I think if we wind back 21 years ago, our founding partner of 𝐴LMAN Partners, Scott Alman, he had a real vision to set up a pool of funds for our community, and that's where really Mackay Community Foundation came about, where people could donate to the foundation and all the money stays local, which is so important, as our first tick of priority. And from there, those donations are invested, and anything distributed back to the community is really the income derived from those investments. So that's the uniqueness, I suppose. Generally, when you think about a charity, you pass that money on, say $1, and that dollar, quite a large chunk of it, unfortunately, does go to administration and cost to keep that charity going. And then a percentage goes on to the people in need or whatever that looks like, whatever's supported for that charity. But with the Mackay Community Foundation, as you put your dollar in, that's invested, and that will continue to grow for the community. So what we're trying to do here is, or what we are doing, is actually increasing our level of income for our community in future years.
Without having to go out there and be continually raising new funds and doing those aspects too.
Exactly. Yeah. If you think about it, this is really a transition from what I've been doing as a financial advisor. That's what we do every day, is we're creating wealth in perpetuity, really, if people want to keep it from generation to generation in their families. But they're going to have a passive income stream at some point in time once they finish work. And that's what the Mackay Community Foundation is really about as well. If we can build an income in perpetuity, which will continue for the next generation, to me that's smart. That's not working harder.
Absolutely.
So, and wouldn't it be lovely, Scott used to say, 21 years ago when he established it, wouldn't it be lovely if the whole community one day didn't have to pay rates, for example, and that could help all our community. But for now, we're certainly focused on the purpose of helping people in need or at risk or vulnerable in our community, and that's where the grant giving is provided to those non-profit organisations helping people in need.
Wow. Yeah. And so you do an annual grants awards?
Yeah, so annual grants are they're actually going to open up 25th of March this year, so for any non-profits that might be listening. And they'll open for the good 5 weeks before. So really what we're looking for is non-profit organisations wanting to close the gap in some very vital sign areas, what we call vital signs in our community. Generally that comes from homelessness. Domestic violence is quite a large one in our community, unfortunately. Mental health, people experiencing mental health. And we also look at disabilities in the elderly. So they're sort of the main areas within our community that we really focus on, and generally most of our grant giving is provided to those sort of non-profits, providing or closing those gaps that we really want to see. I mean, everyone should be able to have the basics of shelter, food and clothing.
Absolutely.
And if everyone can have that, well, that's a better environment and better surroundings for all of us to live as a community.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just that one point that you mentioned earlier in terms of all of the money actually, it's not getting absorbed up in different places. I think that's really important because people can become a little bit cynical about charity and not wanting to give money not knowing where it's actually going. So
yeah, definitely. We've been very, very fortunate since inception, to have significant amount of in-kind support. So the one big one is the governance and the accounting around that. And Brown and Bird have been one of those providers for some time now. And also Wayne James, who was originally a founder on the board, he provided a lot of service there originally as a board director. So that's quite a huge cost that we can, eliminate. We've also had 𝐵𝐻𝐴𝑡𝐻, so a number of accountants assist from an auditing point of view as well. So that's really important, I think, if you're dealing with communities' money, is that there's a good governance around it.
Well, that's that true philanthropic nature, like you're saying. A donation of time and efforts that way goes so far.
Oh, it's huge. It certainly keeps the money, and we don't have to touch the capital, and that's what it's all about, not touching the capital and just distributing the income to support our community. So we're very lucky on that side to have that, and we have continued to have that support, particularly with the building as well, with all sorts of services provided. As we know, when you've got a hard asset, there's always things to do and maintenance and so forth. So, I can't shout out to everyone. There's so many people. We'd be here for a good hour or so, but we acknowledge them on our Facebook page if anyone's interested to have a look.
Yeah, and we'll share the link with the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Viewers can click onto it. So how, and I think we know how you've got to why Mackay Community Foundation for you, but how do people, I don't know if you can give any insight here, identify what their values are around charitable giving? Because I think it's always quite difficult that people might have this idea of, I really want to do that, but just don't know where to start. And doing it in a way that's actually going to be meaningful for them rather than just doing it for the sake of it.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think anything in life, if you don't have meaning behind it or you're not passionate about it, you're not going to enjoy it. So that's when it stops. So if you can be, find something that you're passionate about, like anything in life, and identify that pretty early, well, you'll grab and gravitate to a certain area which needs your help. There are so many charities out there. There's so many non-profit organisations in Mackay locally that are seeking, in-kind support and all sorts of things to be able to provide and, stretch that dollar. And I suppose when I see the doers out there and the doers of the non-profits really getting into the grassroots, they struggle. I don't think I've seen one that is, got full of cash funds there to really do what they desire to help our community. So I think from how do you identify it? Well, it's just going to come back to passion. What are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? And look, sometimes don't bash yourself up. I often used to go to the grants presentation for the Mackay Community Foundation. I'd come back from that a little bit, I'm not doing enough.
Not being impactful enough.
I'm not doing enough in my community. And my wise mother said, if you're time poor, give your money. If you don't have the money, give your time. So it just depends where you are in your life at this point in time, and those things will change over time. But don't bash yourself up that you should be doing more. But think about it though carefully of what could you really be doing if you can't. You don't have the time, you're busy with your families. Everyone's busy these days. But I tell you what, I'm sure everyone has $10 in their pocket, to be able to give that to a charity. And like you said, Kelsey, this intergenerational wealth that's going to be created, or it's going to happen, if you could just think of it that way, just a small donation will really make a difference. I think about the Mackay Community Foundation. We know our aim is to get $10 million in a pool of funds by 2040 or earlier, hopefully earlier. We're now sitting there about 3.3 mil. And, so there's, 16 years to go. But so it's taken us 21 years to get to 3.3 mil. But compound interest is on our side, but also the awareness that we're getting now for the Mackay Community Foundation is really important.
Absolutely.
So things like this, talking to you guys about the foundation's great and getting that awareness out there. So what's that 10 million mean to us? Well, it means that we will be able to give $500,000 away to non-profit organisations annually.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Absolutely.
So if I get $200,000 a year in donations for the foundation, we know we'll get there by 2040.
Wow.
Now, what that calls for us is to pretty much double our donations, what we're getting annually now. So I suppose it's a bit of a call out for anyone who's listening, really.
Absolutely.
If you can give a bit of money, it stays local. It's something that we certainly focus on those critical areas in the community.
I'll probably just double down on that. I guess it was a reminder for listeners that the benefits of doing this it actually fulfills one of your biggest, your deepest human needs. So humans need, they need significance, they need variety, they need connection, they need growth and contribution. And really, to summarise that, it's community that you had said.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just really important to reconnect with that. I think we don't spend enough time doing that. And as you'd mentioned, Frances, it doesn't have to be financial. It can be time. And if you don't have the time, it's the financial. And it's those small changes.
And that resonates.
Yeah, I think as simple as just go and know who your neighbour is first and foremost.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that, because generally, it might be an elderly neighbour who needs a little bit of a hand once in a while to mow the yard, or go and do the grocery shopping for them, or it might be a very busy family that struggles, that might need a little bit of a hand. So I think for us, just as simple as get to know your neighbour first is a good start.
Yeah.
Well, I think I feel like I've resonated really, really well with what you said way back at the start of our conversation about the everyday philanthropist. And, for me, I was talking a little bit with the team earlier this week about my local soccer club, for example. And I'm thinking, how many boxes does that actually tick? If it's a non-for-profit organisation, we've got women coming together there, getting out healthy, fit, great for the mind. That's something that I dedicate my time to because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
If you're ticking all of those boxes, like you say, and if I can go out there and do a couple of raffles or whatever the case may be, that's such a impactful thing for me, but it's also impactful for all the lives of the community that I'm involved with there. And, so it can be done at any level. It doesn't have to be, if you've got $500,000 that you could put towards the current generation, the future generations, that's an amazing gift, but it's also an amazing gift just to be part of your community.
Yeah, that's right, Teneale. I'm pretty confident that 100% people are all giving something.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee it. I suppose it's more just a question of, could you do more?
Yeah.
And whether it's small or big, maybe just reflecting on that a little bit around the dinner table with the family, and these are the things that I always ask my kids around the dinner table. Once they groan after a while about it, but is what did you do for someone today? Just those conversations around the dinner table just get that to the forefront with even your family, starting to make them think about giving, whether it's as simple as having a chat or an in-depth conversation with someone to get them know them a bit better, and maybe how can you help them. As simple as, I had a parent at the school going through some hard times with one of their sons, and I rocked up surprisingly with a meal for them. And just the response to that just shocked me, because they're just not used to that. So I think as simple as a meal.
And it's interesting
so easy.
because we all know how it feels when we receive those small gestures. It can be the little things, but it really fills your heart up, and you go, "Wow, isn't that special?"
Yes. Well, someone thought about me, and it's one less thing I have to do while I'm going through something that we really are being challenged by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so powerful. And so you mentioned if our listeners are wanting to find out a little bit more about the Mackay Community Foundation, then you mentioned they're on Facebook. What's their best method?
There's a number of avenues to get some information on the foundation, but first and foremost to jump on the website. So it's just www.mackaycommunityfoundation.com.au, and from there there's the Facebook page, there's Instagram. And there's a YouTube channel, I should say, where we've got some nice little videos there from some of the non-profit organisations that have received grants to assist in their projects or equipment that they've needed. So there's certainly a bit of background in what we're supporting out there.
And what about for anybody that might want to be involved in the Mackay Community Foundation? Is there information on the website there around? Yeah,
look, there's many ways to be involved, and I would suggest if anyone has a desire to find out more about the Mackay Community Foundation, pick up the phone, leave a message at Alman Partners, or you can leave a message. There is a phone number direct to the Mackay Community Foundation. It will get to myself, and we can have a chat over coffee. So there's certainly ways you can support through administration. If you've got great administration skills, I'm always calling for someone to help in that area. There's so much more that we could be doing as a foundation and continually building that awareness as well. So the more hands we have, lighter work it makes for everyone, because we really are only a seven director board of volunteers really making this all happen for the community.
Yeah. Wow.
Amazing.
I think it's been really inspirational having you here today, Frances, and talking through all these things. I think every time we sit down with you, we could probably learn so much and have so many more conversations. But
that comes with age, Kelsey. Don't worry.
You're not that much older than us, Frances. Stop.
But look, in the interest of time, just want to say thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And listeners, if you have enjoyed the conversations today, please let us know specifically what that was. Why did you enjoy it? And perhaps what you want to hear more of as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our content, share it with your friends and family, and we'll see you next fortnight. And don't forget to also have a look at the Mackay Community Foundation website.
The opinions of the presenters are objectively ascertainable and are not intended to be financial product or personal advice.